Hello, it's me again. I was taking some tests, got tired, and then realized something I need to share. So, as a person that was a people pleaser for pretty much my entire life, when I started standing up for myself, people started making me feel like I was selfish, rude, kind of that how dare you mentality. But I realized that that was meant to hold me back. That was meant to keep me in a toxic way of being that allowed people to walk all over me and push boundaries that I didn't even have at the time. They were actually working to teach me how to create boundaries for myself. And now, after quite a while of setting boundaries and having standards, my son has to remind me, Mom, just because you have high standards and you have big boundaries doesn't mean you're going to be alone forever. And I thought, how sweet. he's he's helping to encourage me to keep being my true authentic self. Because when you are a people pleaser, when you allow others to step on you, you are giving them your power. And it's difficult to understand what kind of boundaries you even want to place. When I was first creating boundaries for being around me, I had to ask myself, what am I okay allowing? What can I overlook? How do I expect people to treat me? Also, how do I need to treat others? Because the energy I'm putting out is what I'm drawing in. When do I cut people out of my life? It went on and on and on for me. It was kind of like a rabbit hole of thought. So I actually sat down. I still have what I wrote. It's a book about this thick that I still need to work on getting out because it's just different ways of how to assert yourself in a positive manner to where you're not invoking arguments, chaos, picking at someone's ego, and just essentially creating a battle before you even say anything. But, anyways, I'll get around to sharing that at some point when I find time to put it together completely, because right now it's just a rough draft. But like I was saying, I just want to help you understand that just because you're expressing yourself and someone gets angry doesn't mean that you're in the wrong. It does not mean that you said something that was out of line. It does not mean that you started a fight. It doesn't mean that you need to back off and let them have their way. Because honestly, when you're dealing with someone that's toxic or in a toxic energy, they're going to react in a way that might catch you off guard. But over time, the more you get away from this toxicity, you start learning that it's common, and a lot of people behave in a way that kind of they just explode, they run off, they ghost you, they do whatever they need. And sometimes they don't even come back and apologize. Sometimes they will completely just disappear. Sometimes they will go around and try to slander your name so they're not the bad person. But that's you affecting someone's ego. That has nothing to do with you. Do not take responsibility for somebody else's actions or reactions to you asserting yourself. Because, like I said, it is okay for you to speak your mind. It is okay for you to have boundaries. It is okay for you to set standards and goals for yourself. If you're around people that will not allow that, you don't want to be around them anyways. Because honestly, they're trying to manipulate you into doing what they want you to do. These are not people that you want to be around. You don't want to be enslaved to somebody else's ideas or ways of thinking if it's not in alignment with your own. And a lot of times, the more you set boundaries and standards, you're going to find yourself more alone. Your circle's going to get so small, you can be looking on the end of a pencil going, that's my group. That's been me for a while. The loner, the one that's there for people, but when I need people, they're not there for me, which essentially pushed me to become reclusive. And I spend most of my days with spirit and my children and our dog. But I've allowed people to come in and out of my life as they push and test my boundaries. They go out just as easily as they came in. And that's a matter of self-respect for myself and my children. And it's important early on in any type of relationship to set your boundaries. Let them be known. Because if not, it's kind of like you have this, oh, wait, that's not going to work for me. But you did all these other things. You allowed all these other things to happen. And most people wouldn't realize that that was a boundary you had. So, for example, like with me, when I meet people, right off the bat, I don't do drugs. That's plain and simple for me that's a boundary. Don't bring them in my house. Don't do them around my children. Don't do them around me. It's your life. You do whatever you want. But also on the same note that if that person is doing drugs, they're not on the same frequency with me. And eventually we're going to part ways. I understand that we're all dealing with addictions and problems of our own, but there's a difference between somebody that's trying to better their life and they're still dealing with their past in a way compared to somebody that's just freely open about this is who I am, this is what I do. So that's just one boundary for me, that I do and say certain things to protect myself as well as my children because I am their guardian. I am responsible for educating them, for helping them understand how the world around them works, how they fit in it, how they can succeed within it, how they can move forward in life and not be dependent on anybody, because codependency is another issue, but that's another day. So if you can remember that it's okay for you to set those boundaries, to build a firm foundation for yourself, it will actually help you get further in life. And yes, you're going to lose a lot of people on the way, but you're going to open doors to meet people you would have never imagined that you would meet in your life. And hopefully you'll embrace that. And like I said in the other video, change is very, very difficult. I know this. I'm going through change myself right now. And it's just like if you're pregnant, your body begins to morph and eventually you feel like your body's been taken over by something that is out of this world and you're going, I don't know if I can handle this, but you make it through. And it's the same thing with men. I'm sure y'all have uncomfortable situations for yourself, as your voice changes and you're squeaky and then deep and just the changes that people recognize. I remember boys walking with binders in front of them in high school and never thinking anything of it, but that was a way that they coped with their discomfort in being of the change that was happening in their life, right? So we all have ways that we cope with these changes. And just remember, as you are setting boundaries, that you're going to unintentionally poke at people. They're going to want to test you, and you're going to start having to draw on strength and courage to stand up for yourself. And I just want to remind you that you can do it. And it is essential for you to do it if you want to live a happy and productive life, if you want to be able to do things that please you and are fulfilling to your soul. Because in all honesty, if you're going to let somebody else live your life for you, what are you even doing here? We're not infants. We're not toddlers. We have the ability to think, walk, talk, breathe all on our own. And I've had to remind several people that I've ended relationships with. Before you came along, I could do all these things by myself. And then I've had to separate myself from them because they became too pushy. They kept pushing my boundaries. They kept trying to get me to come out of character. And as an empath, it's that's like a final straw for me, because there is certain things of mirroring and projection and absorbing other people's emotions to kind of reflect them back to them. But as I'm beginning to become someone that's toxic, I will not stay in that environment because essentially it takes over who I am. So I think that applies for everybody, not just empaths, because we all have this ability to mirror one another, that we are like sponges and we do what is acceptable amongst the masses. So just wanting you to think and realize that you have a choice and ask yourself, what are the boundaries that are deal breakers for me? What are standards that I put out there Like you can't be a low life feeding off of me. You got to be a certain aspect of a family person to be in my family, because my family means the world to me. Whatever it is for you, it could be don't kick my dog, or it's whatever works, but you're going to have to sit down and ask yourself, what kind of standards do I have? And what kind of boundaries do I need to set to enforce those standards for myself, so that I can maintain the best way of living for myself and I can continue to work to become my highest self? So just a quick thought, and I'm going to go back to taking tests and studying. And for now, bye bye.